Hello, and welcome to the Resume Ready podcast. My name is Brian Schneider, and I want to take a short break from the infographic series to drop in this bonus episode. Throughout the podcast, I plan to share key aspects related to resume writing, touching on topics such as your job search, networking, LinkedIn profile, interview preparation, cover letters, and social media. First, though, I want to tell you that today's episode is sponsored by my friends at Bradley Garrett Salon on Brookhaven Circle. As you know, getting my hair cut is one of my favorite things to do. When I'm at the salon, I feel relaxed, comfortable, and they do a great job of making me feel special. It's an excellent form of self-care, which will boost your self-esteem and help you feel refreshed and restored. My family and our friends' families have gone to Bradley Garrett for years because the stylists know how to make you look and feel great. I highly encourage you to check out Bradley Garrett Salon on Brookhaven Circle. Now on to the podcast. Today I want to cover two important aspects of the job search process, including networking and informational interviews. The first topic we'll cover is networking. For those still early in your career, let's define networking. Networking is essentially utilizing relationships with others to coordinate informational interviews for the purpose of A, getting advice on your career, B, creating new relationships, and C, uncovering potential job opportunities. This often happens organically through meetings such as lunches, telephone conversations, and coffee shop visits. I'll go into more detail about informational interviews in a few minutes. First, though, let's dig into relationships. Relationships are key to creating connections so that others know about your job search. You start with people you know, such as friends, colleagues, and family members, and through these connections, you intentionally grow the number of people with whom you can meet. Think of it like a spider's web which branches out from a center point with concentric circles or layers all connected back to the center. Each intersection of the web becomes another node or center point, which then can grow on its own based on conversations you have with the first round of connections. As mentioned earlier, your network will start with a few known connections and grow into more based on how much you hustle and take advantage of your informational interviews. Your network will grow to include others in the community who are part of various types of businesses, including people who also have their own connections. Ultimately, you want to tap into your connections, which of course will result in growing your own network. A few things to keep in mind about networking. 1. A network can't grow on its own, and of course the smaller it is, the less beneficial it will be to your job search. Networking is crucial to every effective job search and requires you to invest time and energy. 2. Be sure to maintain your network by thanking, acknowledging, and helping people who have helped you. This kind of network management helps keep your network strong and vibrant. The second job search aspect I would like to discuss today is informational interviews. Informational interviews are similar to job interviews in that you're meeting with someone, but there's no official job vacancy being discussed. Informational interviews are informal meetings you set up with people in your network to discuss your situation, parts of which will include A, you are networking and finding more people and companies to consider, B, you are considering changing jobs or finding a job, and C, you're seeking input and advice from this person about ways you can use your skills and competencies in other organizations and industries. At this point, I would like to take a moment and emphasize the need for you to know and know how to tell your story. Your conversation with someone is going to be limited, and you have to take this opportunity to quickly share where you've been, what you're doing now, and what you could see yourself doing in the future. Take the time to write out aspects you want to weave into the conversation. During the conversation, you will also want to highlight achievements from your resume. Hopefully, the person with whom you're speaking will take some time prior to the meeting to scan your resume and become a little familiar with your background to build on the conversation. You want to be perceived as hustling with a strong initiative and a curious demeanor about what else could be out there which could be a good fit for you. Take the time towards the end of your session to ask for suggestions for other people with whom he or she feels it would be beneficial for you to connect or network. People regularly connect those seeking help with others based on their background, experience, and industry. There's a great podcast of a recruiter named Marcia Ballinger being interviewed by Angela Copeland, where Marcia discusses the components of an effective networking meeting and makes several suggestions for achieving it. Marcia also has a book about how to implement an effective networking meeting, and I will include a link in the show notes to both the podcast and her book. Several of Marcia's suggestions include: interact in a manner to impress the person with whom you're meeting, such that he or she would want to tell others about you. In other words, even though this networking meeting is not a job interview, you should treat it like one in how you present yourself. You should be positive, enthusiastic, and upbeat in your exchange. Another suggestion from Marcia is to keep the meeting short out of respect for the person's time. She suggests having your story down to 60 seconds or less, which will leave time for inquiries, feedback, and important exchanges. Marcia also emphasizes the importance of being prepared. You should have specific questions for the listener, including what he or she thinks about your situation, and maybe how he or she landed in his or her respected position. The last item I'll mention that Marcia covers is that through this networking meeting, you really want to create an evangelist on your behalf who will support your search. You want the individual to walk your resume down the hall to someone else, or call a friend and tell him or her about you, or in 3 weeks, remember your name in a conversation when the topic comes up. This kind of stickiness is how your message will grow and resonate through connections with others. Why it matters. Actively managing your network and understanding how to prepare for and implement effective informational interviews matter because they directly impact the success of your job search and the likelihood of finding a new job sooner. By focusing on growing your network and taking advantage of informational interviews, you'll give yourself a competitive advantage so you can win the interview. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to today's bonus episode. For more information on the topics covered in today's episode and many others, please check out the articles on my LinkedIn profile, a link to which can be found in the show notes. If you feel today's episode was helpful, please consider sharing it with a friend and subscribing to the show. Tune in to Resume Ready next time when I'll be discussing the first concept on the Resume Ready infographic part 2 called Contact Information.